Well, good afternoon, everyone, and I'm flying solo today. I'm really worried with Tommy because the truth of the matter is, when we look at this, and again, we can't talk about the legal case, and I'm very aware of that because we don't want to all follow um, Tommy into prison. But I'm very concerned about the sentencing that I've read about on this case, and I touched on it last night. And apparently, black belt barrister um, basically agreed with my analysis that this charge that he's been charged with, there is up to a 10-year prison sentence on this charge. Now, again, that's not getting to the specifics of the case. That's the danger that Tommy's in, and my appeal today is to everybody with influence. I'm small fry. I've got a small following. I've got a very loyal following, and you guys have been very good to me. But we need everybody, and I mean everybody that's associated with our movement. Everybody needs to stand up, and everybody needs to realize what's at stake here. Because if they can put Tommy in prison for 10 years, they will. They absolutely will. So what can we do? It's all the usual stuff. Write to your MPs. I'll be writing to my MP. And to me, members of parliament should be all over this, because all of this that's happened to Tommy in the past 15 years, it comes down to one thing, in my opinion, and it's lawfare. If you look at what happened to him outside, I can't remember whether it's Leeds or Huddersfield, but when he was filming the grooming gangs coming out of court, they'd been convicted, they were going in to be sentenced, and Tommy, before they even went to prison, Tommy was grabbed off the street, put in a police van, and locked up. And that was May. That was exactly this time in 2018, right? Because I was in London for my birthday and my phone exploded, not literally, metaphorically. Text messages as soon as I landed at Luton Airport. So this has been going on for a very long time, and it's got to stop. So I'm going to call on the great and the good today. I'd say most of the people in the comments stand with Tommy. I say most of the loyal supporters that come to all our events stand with Tommy. I would say the vast majority of the British working class stand with Tommy. And I'm quite happy and proud to say I stand with Tommy. But I want to talk to the Ben Habibs, the Rupert Lowes, the Nigel Farages, the Nick Tenconis, the people who have political influence. And I want to ask you a question. Will you stand with Tommy? Because the prospect of him thinking he was getting out of prison, and who knows, I haven't spoken to his team. I don't know if he's getting out or not getting out. I don't know what they're going to do. Are they going to try and remand him and keep him in? Is he going to get out? We don't know. But this court case, as far as I can see, starts on the 5th of June. So if he gets out, let's say by the end of the week, then there's less than a fortnight, and he's up before a judge again. And again, I'm not going to comment on the case, but I will say this. At the time that whatever is alleged to have happened, whatever it was, right? At that time, I want to say this about Tommy. Tommy was tirelessly doing videos, telling people in England, yes, he was on holiday with his family, but he was doing videos almost every day, de-escalating the situation. I was talking to him, and we were chatting backwards and forwards. We were all de-escalating the situation. We were all saying violence and rioting and burning and looting and causing all sorts of problems is not the way to solve the problems of our country, and not the way to deal with what we all knew. And again, this is the thing about this. People were threatened with that evil, vile, disgusting creature, Ruda Picana, or whatever they call him. Everybody knew in their hearts that that was a terrorist attack. We're still not being told the full motivation, but what we do know for sure is that the psychopath had an Al-Qaeda manual. Well, that would certainly suggest it was a jihadist attack. But again, we're not being told. We're also told very reliably, in fact, Tommy told me himself when I visited in prison, that when he was in Belmarsh, he was told that Ruda Picana was a Muslim. These are the things that were out there that nobody is talking about. The fact that the government misled everybody and tried to make out that the uprisings, the riots, the demonstrations, the protests, the quite justifiable anger. Now, there's no justification for violence ever, right? But I think about what happened in Downing Street. When I look at the footage of Downing Street, and there's people in prison now after the Downing Street protest. Now, at the time, I remember, I think it was, well, I'm not going to say who it was, but we know who was organising the demonstration down the street. I thought it was a really bad idea, and I think I put that out publicly at the time. But the reality is, the people that went there had a right to peacefully and freely protest. Many of those people are in prison now. Many of those people are in prison. Lucy Connolly still in prison for a tweet. And at the time when all this was happening, what the government were trying to do, and they said this and this is why we've got to look at this very carefully. And again, I'm going to be very careful what I say here now. But I'm nearly sure it was Keir Starmer, when he was making one of his statements, says, wherever you are, if you're stirring up trouble, we're going to get you, basically. That was, I'm paraphrasing, obviously, but that was the gist of what he was saying. And of course, because these people have a completely biased, preconceived idea of what Tommy's about and what he was doing, they didn't even listen to the fact that Tommy wasn't doing that. He was doing completely the opposite. He was trying to de-escalate. But the threat was there. We're going to get you on this, and we're going to make you pay. Even though those riots and demonstrations were absolutely nothing to do with Tommy Robinson whatsoever. In fact, he was saying, do the opposite. He was saying, don't riot. Don't get yourselves in positions where you could get yourselves put in prison. And everybody else was saying that. At the time, I was saying to people, by all means, go out and peacefully demonstrate, because I think it's very important to have a peaceful outlet for your anger. And people did that. But there were people locked up. There was a frenzy. And I watched the performing chimp that Nigel Farage has in his cage on the Matt Goodwin show last night. I can't remember the fellow's name, but and he was saying, "Oh, we're not in a police state." Nonsense. We are in a police state. Absolutely, we're in a police state. And Tommy Robinson is testimony to the fact that we're in a police state. That we're living in conditions right now where you can go to prison just for saying words, not inciting violence, not inciting anything, just for saying things. People are going to prison. And if you look at what Lucy Connolly said, she did not say go and burn the hotel. She says burn the hotels for all I care. And as far as I know, at that time there were people attacking hotels, not because she said it. So in fact, it was almost like she was reporting. And I believe that if Lucy Connolly had pled not guilty, she wouldn't be in prison now. And this is another message. If the Stasi ever come knocking your door, no comment, and don't plead guilty to anything. Don't plead guilty to anything. Don't give them what they want. But what do we do about Tommy? Well, I'm calling on the great and the good. I'm not just calling on the politicians. I call on my own Alex Easton. I want you to stand up. I want you to take a stand for this, because there's a lot of people who voted for you to get rid of the dreadful Stephen Farry as MP and get you in because we wanted something better. Well, Alex, I'm calling on you to take a stand on this issue, to take a stand for Tommy Robinson. And I'm saying that as a constituent to you, Alex. I want you standing up for him, no matter what happens going forward in the future. To try and put Tommy Robinson in prison for up to 10 years is absolutely shocking. He has never incited violence, because believe you me, if he incited violence once, they would have thrown away the key. He has never incited violence. All of his speeches, all of his output, and we've all been doing this for a long time, but Tommy's been doing it for a lot longer, and they can't find anything. They can't find anything to back up that claim that he's been inciting anything. So I'm calling all the politicians. Rupert Lowe, you're an MP. Take a stand for Tommy. And what I'm going to ask everybody in the comments, even if he's not your MP, write to Rupert Lowe, write to your local MP, and ask them what they're going to do in terms of Tommy Robinson's human rights. And again, our friends in America, and I know we've got, obviously Don Keith is our most ardent supporter in the United States of America, but there's a lot of other people, a lot of very influential people in the United States of America. If you're watching this video and you've got connections with some of those people, share it with them, because I'm calling on the Steve Bannons, on the Elon Musks, on the powerful people in America to do more for Tommy. We're grateful for what you've done. We're grateful that you've been advocates, but you need to get into the ears of people in Trump's administration, in the State Department, the J.D. Vances, the Alex Gorka, Sebastian Gorka. Those people need to be advocating for Tommy Robinson. They need to be lobbying for Tommy Robinson, and pressure needs to be put on the British government to stop harassing him, to stop vexatious litigation against Tommy. Now, I'm not saying this is vexatious because we're not commenting on this case, but when we look at the track record of the British government going against Tommy, and let's get this right, don't for 1 minute give the Conservative Party a free pass on this, because when we were doing hotel demos, again, respectable people, ex-soldiers, Christians, ex-prison officers, prominent people in the community in my hometown, we were branded as far right by Stephen Farry, and Robert Jenrick said that he was getting the security services involved in looking at the hotel protests, and we got some heat after that. So don't think that the Conservatives are any better than the Labour Party, because they're not. And it was Conservative prime ministers from 2010 onward that harassed Tommy and harassed people that were associated with Tommy Robinson, right the way up until this disgusting Labour government got. And of course, this disgusting Labour government is the uni party on steroids. The commissar, Joseph Starmer, is going by the old communist mantra: show me the man and I'll find you the crime, as Ezra Levant quoted yesterday. Show me the man and I'll find you the crime. That's exactly what they're doing. Exactly what they're doing. And it's happening in every area of society. Look at what happened to Rupert Lowe. So don't think for a minute that Nigel and the Reform Party are going to get on a white horse and come and rescue Tommy Robinson. No, they are not, because they want him out the way just as much as the rest of the uni party do. And I know people in this comments are going to give me stick for this, but I just see the Reform Party as uni party part 2. Look at them. Mohammed Yusuf, Nigel Farage, Richard Tice, and the working class performing pit pony, Lee Anderson. That's what we're up against. That's what we're up against. So we need, as activists and people who are involved in this movement, what we need to do, and look, this is lunchtime. There's 1,100 people watching this on lunchtime. I have a tiny reach. 1,100 people are watching this. That's the interest that there is in this case. And what I want to ask to every single one of the 1,100 people, write to your MPs, get in touch with them, and let them know how you feel about this case. Don't worry about people. Somebody put in the comments there, don't email them. What are they going to do? I mean, if they want to get your email address, they're going to get your email address. Email them, get active, get after these politicians, and let them know that this just isn't acceptable, that we can't live in a country where people's freedom and liberty are trampled on at the whim of the state, the media, and the Stasi type policing setup and the Crown Prosecution Service. This is a disgust. Do you know what? I've been angry before about stuff that's happened in this country, but this one here, it's not just anger. I am genuinely worried for Tommy. I am absolutely petrified about what is going to happen to Tommy. And so we need help. Our movement needs help. And the only people that can do it are the great and the good. So if this gets into the inboxes of Ben Habib, Ben, start advocating for Tommy right now. You want to have a political movement that has the mass support of the working class. You can do it in one foul swoop by standing with Tommy Robinson. So I call on you, Ben. Stand with Tommy Robinson. Rupert Lowe, stand with Tommy Robinson. Nigel Farage, we know you're not going to do it, but I'm going to call on you to do it anyway. Because the way that you have behaved towards Tommy, and let's get it right now, Nigel, you panicked last year. You panicked when the riots happened because you were scared of getting your collar felt. So what did you do? You threw Tommy under the bus. That's what you did, Nigel. And people think that you're going to be the man that comes in a white Charger and saves the country. No, you're not. We know what you are. We know what your party's about. You're there to block the true patriots, the good people of this country, getting their hands on the levers of power. Well, we need to use these situations. We need to use these situations to magnify our message and to amplify our message. 1,200 people watching this. Mine's a tiny little channel. 1,200 people watching this. This is so important. And now I'm going to turn to the media, and I'm going to ask Matt Goodwin. You're this guy that's so much for. I saw you the other day talking about free speech and how it was threatened. The name Tommy Robinson didn't even pass your lips. We know what you've said in the past about Tommy Robinson. Matt Goodwin, are you going to advocate for him? Free Speech Union, are you going to advocate for Tommy Robinson? Are you going to stand for him? Are you going to not realize that what's happening here is totally unfair, totally unjust, and abuse of the judicial process? What are you going to do? All those presenters on GB News, what's more important? Your big salaries or freedom? GB News claims to be the home of free speech. In fact, it's dropped that tagline. Have you noticed that? It's interesting that GB News has dropped the tagline that's home of free speech. Well, my challenge to all the presenters at GB News, and there are some good ones, we know there are. Martin Daubney is a man of the people. Martin's been to our demos. Martin's talked to our people. Man of the people. Martin, what are you going to do for Tommy? Are you going to stand up? Michelle Dewberry, you've stood up for Tommy before. Maybe you got your wings clipped. Are you going to stand up for Tommy? You did an interview with Ezra the other day. You need to keep that going because we need you. The Tommy movement needs you more than that. Tommy Robinson himself needs your help at this time. And then we go to Talk TV. Mike Graham, Alex Phillips. Again, Alex Phillips, someone who supported Tommy. Are you going to stand up again? Mike Graham, are you going to change the habit of a lifetime? And I know you said some harsh things about Tommy in the past, but are you going to look at the facts now and say, no, this man has been totally unfairly treated. He is been persecuted. And what's happening to him is wrong. It's malevolent. It's sinister. It's evil. They're the questions that I'm asking. And the other question is, can Tommy Robinson really be free in the United Kingdom? Can Tommy Robinson have a free and fair trial? Look at the wall-to-wall media coverage. All negative, or nearly all negative. All lies. The stuff that's been said about Tommy and about other people in our movement in the mainstream media is nothing short of scandalous. And I'm also going to appeal to people who are social media activists and who are posting regularly. Stop shooting people on your own side. Stop the friendly fire. If you want to turn your guns on someone, turn your guns on the enemy. Turn your guns on the far left. Turn your guns on the far right. Turn your guns on the Islamists. When I'm talking about guns, I'm talking metaphorically, of course. I'm not talking about literal physical guns. I'm talking about the weapons of our warfare, which are not physical, but they're spiritual, they're ideological, they're ideas and they're words. But our words need to be pointed at Keir Starmer. Our words need to be pointed at the fake Reform Party. Our words need to be pointed at the Tory Party. And yes, there are good people in the Tory Party. There are good people in Reform, without a shadow of doubt. You know, Suella Braverman's, some of the very good friends of mine in Reform. I'm not going to name them because I don't want them to get thrown out the party, but I've got some very good friends in Reform. But come ye out from amongst them and be separate. That's what you need to do. You need to come out from amongst them and be separate. We need a political movement that is going to turn this country upside down and inside out, that's going to deal with the civil service. And not somebody reminded me yesterday, not every single civil servant is a wrong one, but you better believe a lot of them are. You better believe a lot of them are. We need someone that will come in and deal with the judiciary, someone that will come and deal with the policing situation, someone that will come in and deal with what's happening in the military, someone that will come in and deal with all these horrendous quangos. The quangos need to be tangoed. Do you remember that advert years ago where there was the big orange guy who used to go around and slap people around the faces? The quangos need to be tangoed. That's what needs to happen to the quangos. They need to be closed down, shut down. But even then, I'm saying flippant things, making jokes on a live stream. The way this government is going, they could clip that and say that was incitement to violence. Richard was asking for quangos to be tangoed. Lock him up. Give him 10 years. That's what we're facing. Stasi Starmer has to go. It's as simple as that. The commissaire of Downing Street has to go. What we've got in this country, we have had an Islamist and a Marxist takeover of this country. And Suella Braverman wrote an article, I think it was February 2024, where she outlined what was happening in the country. Has anything done about it? No, it's got worse. And of course, the other big threat to our state is the Islamophobia legislation that's coming down the road. And if what we're reading and what we're being told is right, you will not be able to mention anything about Islamism, about jihadists, about grooming gangs, and associate that in any way with Islamic ideology, doctrine, and history. That's what we're looking at. That's what this government's going to force upon us. Why? Because they're caving in to the Islamist vote. That's what we're up against. And that's why they're going after Tommy, because Tommy is public enemy number one when it comes down to that, because he's been talking about this publicly since 2010. 2010, probably long before that. He has been on public record saying what he believes and why he believes it. And again, like I always say, this is not against individual Muslims. Tommy's not been against individual Muslims. Many of them are his friends, and many of them respect him. And even some of the Islamists respect him because he's got courage, because he's got a lot more courage than the wimps and the traitors that have run our country literally into the ground. And of course, today, the 22nd of May, I'm sure you know why that date is important in our calendar, because it's the anniversary of the wicked and brutal murder of Lee Rigby. 22nd of May, 2013. This is a man that had served his country. This is a man that loved his country. This is a man who had a wife and a child. And this is a man that was taken and brutally murdered on the streets of London outside his barracks. Is there anything in the media about it today? Is there any campaign to remember Lee Rigby? Of course, Tommy always talked about Lee Rigby. The EDL did demonstrations about Lee Rigby. But nobody's talking about him now because it's inconvenient for people to talk about Lee Rigby. I'm going to have a look at some of the comments here, guys. That's the main part of the rant over. But we need to be really active in lobbying our MPs. And I think if Tommy goes to prison again, I think we need to start having peaceful, legal, legitimate demonstrations in every single town and city throughout the United Kingdom. We will certainly do them over here in Northern Ireland, which I might add is the most patriotic part of the United Kingdom. I just thought I'd better get that in there because it's true. We will certainly do them in Northern Ireland. We will certainly stand for and stand with Tommy, as we always have done since 2018. The first time we ever had Irish nationalists and British unionists coming together in a demonstration in a major way was in 2018 when we had a Free Tommy demo at City Hall. And people came together with tricolours, the Irish flag, and Union Jacks, Red Hand of Ulster, and nationalist and Republican flags. And that's continuing on. Now, I'm not the organiser of these demonstrations. A lot of them are very spontaneous. But the communities are coming together because the communities realise that our culture, our way of life, our children, our grandchildren are under threat because of government policy, because of the globalists, because of the liberal elite. We are under threat. Our culture, our communities, our society has been downgraded and destroyed. And I've said this and I'll say it again. The only way to solve this, in my opinion, is faith first, family very marginally second, and then flag. If we get our faith right, we get our families right, then the community will get right, and then we've got a fighting chance of winning it politically. Culture is upstream of politics, and religion, i.e. Christianity, is upstream of culture. That's the answer. That's the answer. Now, that answer itself the way things are going will probably get me locked up because it's not inclusive enough. Well, guess what? Diversity isn't our strength. Diversity is the destroyer of nations. That's what it is. What we need is integration. If people are going to come here, they live by our laws or they leave. It's as simple as that. Let me have a look at some of these comments. And again, thanks for everybody jumping on. By the way, guys, can I ask you to do me a big favor? Can I ask that you like, and if you're not subscribed to the channel, please like and subscribe to this channel, to the Richard Inman channel. But also, if you're watching on Counter Media, please subscribe to that channel. And if you're on Counter Media, or if you're on my channel, hop across to Counter Media. It's on YouTube, Counter Media UK. Hop across to Counter Media and sign up and register, because I'm going to try and my best to build that up into a major media channel fighting for faith, family, and flag. That's what it's going to be all about, and it's going to be counter to the narrative that we've got. And we're going to try and have a broad spectrum of thinkers and people on that from various different backgrounds. A lot of them you'll know from the channels that I've been on before, but we're going to really try and broaden that out and making it something that's very, very special. So please get across to that Counter Media on YouTube. Let's have a look at some of these comments. And again, sorry guys for not doing the comments. I just had to get that rant out there because I think it's so important. It's so important that we have an outlet for what we're saying. And I know a lot of you guys in the comments and a lot of you guys that are watching, this is an outlet for you. What I'm saying things that you can't say because you're worried about losing your jobs. You're worried about being persecuted by the state. Well, I've crossed that Rubicon a long time ago. So my head's up above the parapet. So I'll speak on your behalf, and I'll do that as long as you want me to do it, because we've got to keep going. And I believe we can win this fight. I genuinely believe that we can win this fight. Let me just have a look at some of these comments, guys, because there's loads of comments here. I'll try and get back to the beginning. Let's have a look. Richard, have you gone nuts? The Tories aren't. No, I agree, Jack. I agree. The Tories aren't good people, but there are some good people in the Tories, right? The Tories aren't good people. They've absolutely agree. And if you listen to what I said, Jack, I was saying exactly the same thing. The Tories have done Tommy as much harm as anybody else, and that's what we're up against. We need Nick and UKIP. Absolutely. Nick Tenconi is the only person, the only politician that has publicly come out and invited Tommy publicly to join his party. That's a fact. Nick is relentlessly calling for deportations, calling for people who've come to the country illegally to be put out of the country. He's the only one that's doing it. And again, what we need, but the problem is UKIP is not enough, unfortunately. We need a lot more than just Nick. There needs to be a far bigger base, and there needs to be a far broader party. In the same way that Farage, I don't believe Farage can do it with Reform in its current form. Now, if I'm proved wrong, and the and I was going to say UKIP and Reform managed to pull off a miracle, get elected, and then change the country, I will eat humble pie 100%. I've been wrong on loads of things before in my life. I'm going to get loads of other stuff wrong. But the truth of the matter is this, that as far as I can see, Reform in its current form does not have the strength and depth that it needs to win the World Cup. If you think about these football teams that go on to win the World Cup, they grind it out. They win the World Cup because they've got a very strong squad. So when they get suspensions and when they get people injured, they've got someone just as good to come in behind them. That's what Farage doesn't have in Reform, because he's got rid of all these good people. He's got rid of all the. I mean, look, he's got rid of two extremely successful businessmen that have come into politics late in life because they've seen the state of the country. And Farage has got rid of them, Ben Habib and Rupert Lowe. Ben and Rupert are Rolls Royce. Now, all I'm saying is on this, I want to see Ben and Rupert stand up for Tommy. And I want to see Ben and Rupert take a stand and say, we're going to do this and we're going to start this new movement, this new political party. And then everybody can gravitate to it. There's this, Dylan, yes, absolutely. What I would love to see is UKIP, SDP, Integrity Party coming together, because again, UKIP can't do it on their own. SDP can't do it on their own. Integrity Party can't do it on their own. I don't believe Reform can. But we need this coming together of all the political parties who share our vision, who share our ideology. And I go back to it time and time again. And I know I'm a broken record, but the best way of doing that, of bringing them together, is under the pledge. Go, okay, do we like the ideology of the pledge? Do we agree with all of it? Do we agree with 90% of it? Do we agree with 80% of it? Let's get round it. Let's support it and use the pledge as a unifying force to bring people together. That's what I've been doing. And again, if you haven't signed the pledge, again, get onto the pledge.org.uk, sign up, and let's get people registered, so that we can, at the next election, we can use that as a tool to call politicians to account. That's what it's all about. So if the SDP, UKIP, the Integrity Party, or whatever Ben's entity is going to be called, if all of them get behind the pledge, that puts reform in a very, very difficult position. It puts the Conservative Party in a very, very difficult position, because the pledge ideologically is exactly what we all believe. It came out of brainstorming sessions with some of the greatest minds in this movement. It came out of, years and years of people thinking very, very deeply about these things, including Tommy, including friends of mine that still don't want to be really out there too publicly. But there's a lot of very, very smart people that thought about all this stuff for a long time. And the state is deliberately trying to destroy Tommy. That, that if you look at what they've done over the years, because he won't be bought, he won't break, he won't bend, he won't back down. And they might think that that they've got one over on Tommy with him taking the film down. That film, I believe, has had 170 million plus, views. Well, I think I know who won that battle. We need Trump to intervene. We absolutely do. This is my normal parliamentarian mug. That's what they're all like, aren't they, at the minute? They're all basically brainless flying monkeys. Anyway, and just before anyone says it, no, that's not a racist remark. Okay. Mass protests to get Starmer out. I think we need, look, I'll be honest with you. Not everybody can get to London to protest. I'm not going to be able to. But what we can all do, and what I will do, is do protests in my local area. And you look at, if you imagine if there were protests on the same day up and down this country, let's say we took a few topics: the veterans that are getting persecuted, massive, massive issue; the way pensioners have been treated, the taxation system, the farmers, the fishermen, the betrayal of Brexit, the lawfare, the two-tier policing, Lucy Connolly, Tommy Robinson, all the other prisoners of conscience that are in prison for things that they said. If people could get together on all of those issues, this is the problem we've got. We see, the Tommy movement will always work with other people, right? But there's a lot of people, because of the likes of the way Farage and Tice have treated us, a lot of people are very sniffy and won't stand with us. But what I'm saying is, why don't we have days of action where we turn around to the farmers and say, well, if you join with us, we'll join with you. Fishermen, if you join with us, we'll join with you. I mean, one of the things that Farage did that coming up to the Brexit thing was absolutely superb, was when he went up the Thames on the fishing boats, and the pirates of Penzance came out against him. You had bungling Bob Geldof. It looks like an anorexic Gandalf, piling out, sticking two fingers up to. It was Bob Geldof, wasn't it, on that boat? On the other boat, I'm near sure it was. He's not even British, for goodness sake. But anyway, so Bob Geldof and all the other cronies that attacked the flotilla, or tried to attack the flotilla, again metaphorically, verbally, and whatever else they were doing. And it was a great PR coup. There's so much that can be done. There's so much that can be done with protests. Now, obviously, we're only going to get we're only going to get somewhere with this if we start voting and we start being political. Okay, if we don't do that, we're going to have a big problem. So we need the boots on the ground, we need the boots to the ballot box, and we also need to come back to our faith, the faith of this nation. That's what I believe. Okay, that's the three things that are basically going to save us. And obviously, when you come back to faith, it has a positive effect on every other area of your life. And that's what the nation needs to do. Robert, I'm going to fair point. You're absolutely right. I take that point. I shouldn't have used that. That was a scripture verse I was using, and I was using it out of context. So I'll take that as a rebuke. And you're 100% right on that. Not a problem, Robert. I do appreciate you. We all need to correct each other, so that's a fair point. Okay, this is tyranny. This country, Hillary. Yes, it's a big problem, but what we've got to do is we've got to keep fighting. We've got to keep fighting. Yes, we are up against it. We're in a situation where people are getting arrested literally for nothing, as far as I'm concerned. People are getting arrested and remanded and put in prison for nothing. And that could be Lucy Connolly. It could be Tommy. It could be any of us. And I know that if I cross that line when I'm speaking, and the line's very, very nebulous, it's almost an invisible line, and they want it that way. Again, show me the man, and I'll find you the crime, as that communist secret policeman said. Show me the man, and I'll find you the crime. And there's that much on the statute book now that they can come after you with. Man, it's almost impossible. It's almost impossible not to slip up from time to time, especially if you're putting out a lot of content. But to me, we have a duty to do this. And in the Second World War, I mentioned this last night on the podcast. I mean, there's been films made about this. There's been untold number of books. And again, I'm just going to give you the rough outline. There was a man called Dietrich Bonhoeffer. And again, if someone's an expert on Bonhoeffer, and I get it slightly wrong, I'll apologize in advance. But basically, Dietrich Bonhoeffer was I think a Lutheran or an evangelical pastor in Germany before the Second World War. He fled Germany and came to England, I think just before the war broke out. And he was very challenged. He was very challenged that he had to go back to his country to fight for his country and stand for his country and speak out against the Nazi regime. Now, speaking out against the Nazis before and during the Second World War was far more dangerous than what we're doing here. Or was it? I mean, let's get it right. If any of us get put into prison, especially if it's in England, we're in very real danger. Because especially if you've got a profile, if you've got a high profile or even a moderate profile like I've got, and I'm banged into a prison in England, I'd have to be on the block, exactly the same as Tommy. And there's a lot of us that are like that. So it is dangerous. What we do is dangerous. And I'm not overestimating it. I'm not playing the victim. I'm not going to try and say it's more dangerous than it is. But there certainly is danger. And let's get it right. The state will be infiltrating our movement. The state will be getting people. If anyone's divisive, if anyone's deliberately trying to divide the movement and trying to cause chaos and slandering people and attacking people within the movement with no just cause, I would say if you're not working for the state, well, you probably are without even realizing it, because that's what the state wants. So if you're attacking people who are patriots, who are doing a good job, and you've got no good reason to do that, you're either working for the state or you've been played by people that are working for the state. I think that's a fair enough point to make. And if that's not the case, well, then you've got a really bad form of psychosis, because what you're doing is doing the exact opposite to what you claim to be doing. So we're fighting on multiple fronts. And again, my friend that rebuked me about sort of misusing scripture there, which I'll take that point on board, and I think that's fair enough. But the reality is that it is a spiritual battle as well, because we are fighting against anti-Christian forces. Islamism is anti-Christian to the core. Communism is anti-Christian to the core, and they're the fights that we're fighting. So you're fighting a spiritual battle, you're fighting personal battles, and you're fighting a battle against the state all at the same time. So it's not an easy thing to do. But I think when we look at what Tommy's gone through, what that should do is put a rod of steel right the way down every single one of our backs. There's too many jelly babies out there, and they're floppy. There's There's no metal in them. There's no steel down their spines. They're basically blown this way and blown that way. And look, we can all get like that. We can all get ourselves into situations where we cause ourselves problems. But the truth of the matter is, it's how you get yourself out of those situations and how you move on and how we move on to save our country. So let's do it. Let's do this. Let's start getting involved. Start networking spontaneously with people in your own area, with people in your families. Everyone's connected. Everyone's got a little social network outside of social media, right? Start talking to people in that network. Find out what they really believe. Find out if they're for us or against us. And if they're for us, start building that network in your local community that will stand up, that will get involved in elections, that will get involved in politics, that will get involved in the local church, that will get involved in the local community. Because a big part of this, a big part of the way we win this battle, is we get involved in the local community. We get involved in what's going on. We start going to church. We start trying to get involved in local councils. We get involved in media. We get involved in doing social media on local issues. All those things are vitally, vitally important because we can take this country back street by street, town by town, city by city. And I believe, and I've said this so much lately, I believe there is a spiritual answer to this as well. I believe if people come back to church and come back to Christianity and come back to Christ in a real way, in a genuinely sincere way, you cannot use the word of God to win a political argument. That's what I did earlier, which was wrong. And again, if I do something wrong, I put my hands up. But what we can do, if we see our country turning to Christ, you will see Muslims genuinely getting converted and becoming Christians. And if you have a Muslim that's on the sort of jihadist spectrum and he becomes a Christian and it's genuine, well, then all that zeal that he put into probably doing very negative things in terms of Islamism and jihadism and all that sort of stuff, if all that zeal can be transferred to lobbying for Christianity and making the country a better place because of your Christian faith, then that goes a long way to solving the problem. Are we going to reach every single Muslim for Christ and see them all convert? No, probably not. But that's not the issue. The issue is if our country turns back to God, it's going to have a massively positive impact on what happens. And again, Jesus isn't fighting a physical battle. He doesn't want us to go and get engaged in jihad. Jesus called himself the Prince of Peace, but he also said he had a sword, and his sword is the word of God. That's what the Bible says. His sword is the word of God. And that's there to teach people how to live, to teach people how to follow God, to let people know about salvation through Christ. And that's why I always commend everyone. If you've never read the Bible, take a little bit of time every day to read the Bible, whether you read the King James Version or the New King James Version or the English Standard Version. Get yourself a good translation of the scripture and start reading the Bible every day, because it will let you know a lot about our culture and a lot about why we do what we do. And I'm not trying to convert anyone. I can't convert a soul. But what I can say is we need to know where we've come from. And that's why the Bible is very, very important, because you read that book and if God opens your spiritual eyes, that's fantastic. But if you read that book, you will have a good idea of why we think like we think and why we do what we do. I'm going to close off here, guys. I want us to, if we can, I'm just going to get the clock on my phone up. I want to have a minute's silence for Lee Rigby. So if we could all do this, I'll just, I'll get the clock up so we can do it. So it's exactly a minute. Have a minute's silence for Lee. Just bear with me, guys. Not much. Okay, I think we'll have a minute's silence. So if we just, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, if you can just bow and think about Lee and celebrate Lee's life and think about his family, and also if you can say a prayer for Tommy as well. But let's just bow our heads and have a minute's silence for Lee. Well, everyone that honoured that minute silence, thank you very much for that. And just pray for Lee Rigby's family, pray for his son, pray for his widow and his mother, and also pray for Tommy. And just think about Tommy, because what's happening is beyond evil, and it just, to be honest with you, it just absolutely blows my mind that people are able to do that. I'm going to have a quick look at some of these other comments, because again, I do appreciate you commenting. Obviously it's been a bit of a monologue this, so let me just go to the bottom here. So on with Christian soldiers. Thanks for that. Use the Georgia flag, it looks like. Yeah, I mean, this is the other thing. All this stuff about England flags not being allowed to be published on our channels, I just find absolutely unbelievable. Avos Hussein, Rochdale MP went to court, so groomers get less time in jail. Actually, it's very interesting. The guy that was defending those fellas from the Manchester airport thing, I believe he's been arrested, and I think he's been in court on money laundering charges. So I mean, it'd be interesting to see what happens to him and how he gets away with things. If you ever watched any of his videos, his tagline is, "For every offense, there's a defense," which it says pretty much everything you need to know about that gentleman, I think, doesn't it? Here's to you, Mr. Robinson. Jesus loves you more than... I love that. Lovely. That's really, really good. That's really, really good. I crossed the Rubicon last century. Yeah. Yeah, I think I did as well, to be brutally honest with you, but I just kept it quiet for a little while. Okay. Yeah, absolutely. 100% being woke and weak got us into this mess. We've got to stand up. We've got to stand up. We've got to absolutely stand up. Well, yep, absolutely right. We need action, but I mean, the action has to be measured. It has to be intelligent. There's no point in doing stupid stuff. Right, Helen, if you could let me know more about that. I don't know if there's a way that you can get in touch with me, but I'll have a look at that. Oh, yes, sorry. No, sorry. Yes, I've signed that already. Yes, there is actually. Yes, that's a good point. There is a petition. Let me see if I can find it, and I'll put it in the comments. Just bear with me 2 seconds. Let's have a look. Petitions. Protect Northern Ireland veterans. Okay, I'm going to drop this in the comments here, guys. So just bear with me. So look at this. Still 1,400 people, guys. If you haven't, if you could subscribe to the channels, that'd be great. Right, where is it? Where's this? Oh, here we go. Petition. There we go. So yeah, if you could go on and subscribe to the Counter Media channel, that'd be great. But most importantly, sign that petition. If you can't get that, obviously that you're not going to grab that link out of the screen, but take a screenshot of that, or even just go onto the petitions website and you'll find it there. It's the top one, and it's going really well. It's up to about 90-odd thousand, but we need. Okay, great, Helen. Yeah, keep sharing that link as well, guys. If you can keep sharing it, that'd be really, really good. Definitely signing the petition. Well done, Reverend Steve. What do we got? Keep in mind, Jesus was not a soldier like Muhammad. He was protesting against Rome with a body. Okay. Well done, JB. Fantastic. Well done, mate. Richard, you're my favorite channel. Pauline, thanks for that. Really appreciate it. Do me a favor, Pauline, share it with your friends. Share the channel with your friends. We've got to, it might seem like I'm being a self-publicist, but I'm actually not, because I think I've got a message that's a really important message for the country that can definitely help the country and save the country. Taffy, thanks, mate. I'm guessing you're from Wales. We will not be silenced. No, we won't be silenced. Get close to the truth. The real problem, only conspiracy challenge talk it. You normally should check out. Okay, yeah, dead on. Thanks, Richard. Just signed the petition. Well done. Tommy and Starmer are Tommy's not Jewish, and neither Starmer. I mean, why do we even have those people commenting? That's part of the problem. I mean, listen, you see the anti-Semitic stuff. I just can't be doing with that nonsense. Okay, what's this one saying? Unfortunately, that Minga Geldof was born in Dublin to an English mother and a Belgian father. Oh dear, so he actually is British. Oh well, I thought I was gonna be able to fob him off as a Dubliner. Anyway, what's this? What have we got here? Richard and I have some unionist relatives, but also a big anti-racist Republican prior. No squaddies should be prosecuted. Absolutely, absolutely, they shouldn't. It's horrendous what's going on. Thanks for that, Clive. I do appreciate that. I do appreciate that. From Wales. That's what you call stating the obvious, isn't it? Okay, Karen, thanks very much for that. That's brilliant. Oh, signed with honor. Yep, good stuff. Well, that's getting, look, there's 1,400 people on this. If all of us signed it, it would, and this is what it's about. People talk about activism. Activism is everything that you do. It's your politics. It's your going on social media. It's everything. The whole lot is activism. And sign +2. Starmer has reset our position in Europe. That's another thing. I mean, there's so much that's not been discussed. The Chagos Islands, apparently there was a legal challenge. My wife shared it with me earlier on. There's a legal challenge with the Chagos Islands. Rosa, thanks for that. Let me get that. Where is it? Oh, where's it gone? Oh, dear. Let me get that on there. There we go. Please also remember the 22 victims. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. 100%, Rosa. And Ariana Grande, absolutely. I mean, how could we forget that? How could we forget that? And let's say we've had a minute's silence for Lee Rigby. Let's just think about the 22 that suffered so much. And my goodness, I had a friend, not to say his name because he passed away a few years ago, and he got involved in the movement. His daughter was at that concert. She survived, but the family was torn apart by it. I'll be honest with you. It absolutely tore that family apart. And anybody can get caught up in this stuff. And again, when we were doing Veterans Against Terrorism, I got so sick of the government with their sniveling, pathetic. I mean, that was when Theresa May was she wasn't even prime minister, was she? I don't know what she was. She was about as much as a chocolate fireguard. But Theresa May was pretending to be prime minister. And the advice from the government, if there was a terrorist attack, was run, hide and tell. Now, look, I'm no hard man. I'm no tough guy. But I would like to think if there was an attack and I was there and my family were there or my wife was there or my children were there, that I would run at the terrorist rather than hiding. I'd like to think of what you don't know until you're in that situation. You really don't, because if you ever, if you think about stuff that happens right the way through your life, sometimes you act with courage, sometimes you act with cowardice. That's just the human psyche. We can't work out exactly how we're going to behave. But I'd like to think that I would stand up to it. And what I said when I was making speeches for the veterans, I said it's very simple. I said you don't, squaddies and veterans don't run, hide and tell. They stand, they fight, and they protect. And that's still my mantra. And that's why I haven't stopped doing this. And that's why I haven't backed down. No matter what's happened, I've got to keep going. I'm compelled to keep going. I can't stop. It would be so much easier for me if I did stop. But this isn't something you can say, well, I'm just going to walk away into the sunset and forget about it. I've changed my mode of operating because to me, from my point of view, it has to be a lot more Christianized now, right? That's my opinion. That's what I believe God's telling me. I know not all of you believe in God, but that's where I'm coming from. We have to go down that road. It doesn't mean everyone has to become Christians by any means. I'm not going to impose my faith on anyone, but that's the direction that I'm going in. But the reality is, I can't stop. I cannot stop doing what I'm doing. And there's too many people that we're giving hope to. There's too many people that we're motivating to get involved in the movement. So I will not stop doing this. I can't. And again, from the point of view of will we win? I believe we will win. I believe we will win for sure. So I don't understand what that's talking about. I'm just gonna look. Taffy, Christ is King of Kings. Amen, brother. Absolutely 100% true. 100% true. Okay, it's because you're one of... Well, I appreciate that, Pauline. I don't really feel like a leader a lot of the time. I feel quite the opposite. But at the end of the day, I know I'm called to open my mouth. I was reading in the Bible the other day, and it said, "Oh, you know, the word says, open your mouth, and I will fill it." This is obviously God talking to His people. Open your mouth, and I will fill it. And I think that's where we're at. I think that's where we're at. I've been trained to run towards the danger. Yep, absolutely. Yep. Totally, exactly, Paul. And look, you know, the reality is when something like that happens, the worst thing you can do is do nothing. You've got to take action. You've got to do something to defend the people that have been put in danger. And okay, I've got to be careful what I say because the guy doesn't really want his name out there. But I got to know if I said the case, you'd know exactly what I'm talking about. And I'm not going to say it. But I got to know a guy that was involved in basically taking down a jihadist. I'm going to say any more than that, right? This guy took down a jihadist pretty much on his own, right? And he told me that he felt like his whole life was designed to bring him to that point, that was his destiny, to be in that place at that time. The guy was a martial artist. He was a tough guy, not in a thuggish sort of way. He was just a genuine guy that would really, you wouldn't want to mess with, you know, and still is. And he told me that his whole life was designed or built for that moment. Now, obviously, it's dangerous to say that because what is not the case is that's the end of his life, because at the end of the day he survived and he's lived to tell the tale. But that specific time, he knew he was meant to be there, and he knew what he was meant to do, and he knew that he had to do it. And I think we're all in that situation. We've all got skills and we've all got resources and we've all got things that we can do to help save our country. And that's what we've got to do. We've got to work out what we're called to do. Now, if you don't believe in God, like I say, that's fine. But with me, it's what I believe God's called me to do. Okay. And it's a question of how I do it and how you do it. Yeah. Absolutely, Bakerloo. We need to find ourselves again. Absolutely, 100%, brother. And that's what people are doing. The amount of people in the comments that are watching my videos, and I'm very open about the struggles I have. I am a complete failure in so many areas of my life. But I know that I'm called to do this, and I know God's called me to do this. And that's why I'm doing what I'm doing, right? And let's get back to the reason that I'm doing this video, because it's not about me. All I'm saying is I'm here and I'm here for the long haul. It's not about me. It's about Tommy today. It's about what's happened to Tommy Robinson. Yes. And also it's about the 22 people that were absolutely brutally murdered at the Ariana Grande concert. And yes, it's about Lee Rigby. You know, I was in London a few years ago, the day of the Lee Rigby event, and managed to wander into a crowd of Hamas supporters. It didn't end well, but they didn't care about Lee Rigby. They did not give two hoots about him. And these were Muslim guys. And the most worrying thing was, after the altercation, let's say, and it was quite a heated altercation, after that happened, the guy came up to me, showed me his warrant card, and he was an undercover, looked like an Arabian background, undercover police officer. And I said to him, I started talking, I says, well, you know, I says, I'm sure you're against all these people supporting Hamas. He says, oh, no. So I support them. He says, what Israel's doing dreadful. It's dreadful. This was an undercover police officer who's meant to be infiltrating these people. Now, just think about that. Think about how dangerous that, and think about how much the vetting had failed for that guy to basically be there. And again, I didn't out him, obviously, in front of all the people that were there, because, you know, it would put him in danger. But, you know, he came up to me after the altercation. He said, oh, don't worry, I was watching it. I had your back. I thought, well, didn't look like it. But that's the reality of the situation, you know? So, yeah, what do we do about that? Thanks for that, John. Really appreciate it, brother. That's very kind of you. Caroline Rose, thank you for your continuing support. God bless you, my friend. Thanks very much, Caroline, for that. JR154, thank you so much. That's really, really appreciated. Let's go down and see what else we've got in terms of comments. If I've missed any, I apologize. Again, there's just so many on here today, so many comments, and it's difficult doing them on your own. Right, guys, we've been going nearly an hour there. I'm going to let you all go and get your lunch, because you've all been, if you're sitting in the office watching this, or you're sitting at home watching this, you haven't had your salad sandwiches or your chicken and bacon, or your bacon butty. So, oh, sorry, here we go. Let me just put that up there. Thanks very much for that, Mr. Wool. And again, you know, I'm very, very touched by people doing these, doing the super chats and that sort of thing. It's I don't ask for them, but if you give them, it's very, very much appreciated, because again, this takes a lot of time, a lot of thought, and a lot of effort to do these things. This is why I get annoyed when people attack other YouTubers. They don't know anything about these guys. They don't know anything about what they're doing. Kelly wants me to play the song. Let me know in the comments if you want me to play the song. I'll go and find the Men of England, and I'll play the song. How's that? Just bear with me for 2 seconds. Might take a little while for me to find this. So if you want me to play the Men of England song, let me know, guys. Okay. Where are we? Come on. Let's just need to change channel. And again, thanks so much to everyone that's jumped on and is watching this. It's really appreciated. And the subscribers are going up on both channels, which is great. So thanks for that. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe to the channels. If you like what I'm doing, subscribe, because I've got massive plans for what I'm going to do with Counter Media. I'm getting the website built at the minute. I'm working on other stuff in the background. Well, I'm building the website myself. But yeah, so let's have a look at this. So I'm going to play the Men of England song here, guys. Just bear with me. If you haven't heard this, you're going to love it, because it is absolutely superb. Where are we? Videos. So there we go. This is the one. This is the one that we're going to show. So let's just get the thing open.
Men of England, the heroes brave and bold, the men who stood for faith and truth. Where are the men of England, those heroes brave and bold? Where are the men who bled and died in foreign wars untold? The men who conquered all and stood for faith and love. The men who looked to guidance from the Father up above.
Just let me know you can hear that, guys, yeah?
Where are the men of England, the heroes brave and bold? The men who stood for faith and truth, whose honor wasn't sold. Where were the men of England when abusers so depraved took the daughters of our nation, who forever they enslaved? What of the men of England that looked the other way? They took the country shilling, they never made their play. Where are the men of England, the heroes brave and bold? The men who stood for faith and truth, whose honor wasn't sold. The vile police and vice squad, they all seem quite amused, as at the hands of groomers our daughters were abused. Most of all, they blamed the one who always took the fall. Where are the men of England, the heroes brave and bold, the men who stood for faith and truth, whose honour wasn't sold? Where are you, men of England? For now we all must stand. The future of our children is still within your hand. The future not yet written for this green and pleasant land. Where are you, men whose honour wasn't sold? Where are the men of England, the heroes brave and bold, the men who stood for faith and truth, whose honour wasn't sold? Where are you, men of England? For now we all must stand. The future of our children is still within your hand. Where are you, men of England? For now we all must stand. The future of our children is still within your hand. The future not yet written for this green and pleasant land. Where are you, men of England? The heroes brave and bold, the men who stood for faith and truth, whose honour wasn't sold. Where are you, men of England? For now we all must stand. The future of our children is...
Question! I asked a question this morning. I said, where are the men of England? You're here! You're here! You're here!
Well, there you go, guys. That is it. That's it. Okay, that's it. So it's been a great stream. Thanks everyone for joining. Exactly on an hour there, maybe just over an hour. Let's do it all again. If you want to play the song again, will I play the song again? Give me a thumbs up if you want me to play the song again.
Where are the men of England, those heroes brave and bold? Where are the men who bled and died in foreign wars untold? The men who conquered all and stood for faith and love, the men who looked to guidance from the Father up above. Where are the men of England, the heroes brave and bold, the men who stood for faith and truth, whose honour wasn't sold? Where were the men of England when abusers so depraved took the daughters of our nation, who forever they enslaved? What of the men of England that looked the other way? They took the country shilling, they never made their play. Where are the men of England, the heroes brave and bold, the men who stood for faith and truth, whose honour wasn't sold? The vile police and vice squad, they all seem quite amused, as at the hands of groomers our daughters were abused. The politicians blamed the lads who stood up one and all. Most of all, they blamed the one who always took the fall. Where are the men of England, the heroes brave and bold, the men who stood for faith and truth, whose honour wasn't sold? Where are you, men of England? For now we all must stand. The future of our children is still within your hand. The future not yet written for this green and pleasant land. Where are you, men of England, the heroes brave and bold, The men who stood for faith and truth, whose honor wasn't sold. Where are the men of England, the heroes brave and bold? The men who stood for faith and truth, whose honor wasn't sold. Where are you, men of England? For now we all must stand. The future of our children is still within your hand. Where are you, men of England? For now we all must stand. The future of our children is still within your hand. The future not yet written for this green and pleasant land. Where are you, men of England? The heroes brave and bold. The men who stood for faith and truth, whose honor wasn't sold. Where are you, men of England? Where of our children is still within.
This morning, my friends, I asked the question, where are the men of England? You're here! You're here! You're here!
Well, guys, that really is it. I'm going now, okay? Because I've got some work to do, so I better get my work done. But listen, guys, lovely seeing you all. Thanks for everybody jumping in and giving us all the comments and all the encouragement. It does my heart good as well. And I want to encourage everybody. We can win this. We can do it peacefully. We've got to do it peacefully. But we've got to stand up and we've got to get out on the streets, peaceful protest. If the worst happens and they try and send Tommy away for a long stretch, then we've got to make our voices heard very, very vocally and very loud. Peaceful civil disobedience, 100%. Riot and disorder, absolutely not. We can do this. We can do it peacefully. And what we've got to do it peacefully. Bless you all. What I'll do, next time I'm doing a live, I will put the links into the song. I haven't got it on Spotify, but it's basically, I own the song. I wrote the song. So what I'll do, I'll basically try and get that on Spotify. I just need to work out how to do that. So bless you guys. Bless you guys. Okay. See you all soon.